20, we are up to over 30 teachers who have sent an RSVP notice. Special thanks to School Improvement Leadership Team, the TSD principals, and the TFT executive for their support with this critical curriculum endeavor. I'd also like to share an update about our English Language Arts pilot. The School Improvement Leadership Team and I will be hosting an open house for all K-5 teachers to preview the 2 English Language Arts pilots. The one is Journeys and the other is Lucy Calkins. Materials from both pilots will be showcased and available for teachers to preview, examine, and question. Teachers who launch the pilot will serve as experts and be at the meetings to answer any questions or concerns. This is a very important decision for the district. The ultimate goal will be to have a vertically and horizontally aligned pre-K-12 English Language Arts curriculum. Special thanks to the teachers who piloted, the principals and the TFT executive who supported the pilot, and the School Improvement Leadership Team who put in countless hours behind the scenes to prepare both of the pilots. This is the season of testing, and you'll hear me talk about testing every time we meet because we're testing, and doing more testing. So we did receive some results from our staff to create the district self-assessment, and we submitted that to the state on Friday. We were pleased with the results and saw growth in most of our indicator areas. Results were calculated by averaging all of the school self-assessment reports. The indicator areas to target for next year include teaching and learning with a needed emphasis on reinstitution of PLCs, resources, and governance. And the indicators that received a score less than 3 on a 4-point scale are the following. Indicator 2.3, the governing body ensures that the leadership at all levels has the autonomy to meet goals for achievement and instruction and to manage day-to-day operations effectively. 3.5, the system operates as a collaborative learning organization through structures that support improved instruction and student learning at all levels. 4.1, the system engages in a systematic process to recruit, employ, and retain a sufficient number of qualified professional and support staff to fulfill their roles and responsibilities and support the purposes and direction of the system, individual schools, and educational programs. Indicator 4.5, the system provides, coordinates, and evaluates the effectiveness of information resources and related personnel to support educational programs throughout the system. And 5.3, throughout the system, professional and support staff are trained in the interpretation and use of data. To piggyback in terms of more testing, this week the district is testing in the following categories: early literacy and My Access. The testing window for both tests will end May 26th. Also, the following grades are involved in M-STEP. That would be grades 5, 8, and 11. Next week, beginning May 1st, grades 3, 4, 6, and 7 will be taking the M-STEP. And then finally, thoughtful classroom and teacher evaluations. The evaluation window ended on Friday, this past Friday, and I'd like to compliment the teachers and principals for maintaining a growth mindset while working through this new tool. Many teachers and principals were pleased with the manner in which the tool allowed for rich conversations as well as opportunities for reflection and growth. We've saved some time on the next pre-K-12 leadership meeting agenda to discuss how to improve the use of thoughtful classroom as well as the implementation of stages. And some of that data will be collected from teacher information and teacher support and perspective to be able to share that with our leadership.
I just have a quick question. The gentleman that came up to audience participation to talk about his daughter being suspended from Eureka Heights. I just checked the Friday update, and in our security report from Michelle Marshall, I see nothing. I just checked the Friday update from Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, and I was waiting for these reports to be done. I don't see anything about the expulsion of that child or incident in our Friday update. Suspension, out of school suspension.
So I'm not made privy to all suspensions, particularly if they're at a lower level suspension. So I was not aware up until today of the suspension, so I have it on my notes to go and do some more investigation. So I can get back to you once I have more information.
And I'm going to say it again. Other districts, any out-of-school suspensions, but definitely expulsions, come before the board, and the board has policies that are strong on how suspensions are to be handled. And I've asked over the years why we don't have that. We have a committee, but the board does not get updated on those things, except for if security is involved with incidents or if it involves major after the fact update. So I'm just saying, I think we need to look at this as a district on how we handle suspensions, expulsions, and what the board knows and when the board knows it. Because sometimes we don't know about expulsions until 180 days to a year later when the child's already been out of school for that long. And over the years, there have been more than several instances where I, as a board member, have to question why that child was ever out of school in the first place. So we need a more updated way of handling that and informing the board, and the board needs to exercise their revised school code rights and responsibilities under knowing the suspensions and expulsions. That's one of the responsibilities of the board, and it's been issued to staff over the years, in my opinion, without full board update and knowledge.
So that's part of the policy rework that we need to continue working through. That's pretty murky in our own internal policy.
It's very murky, and the way it's handled, it's been, over the years, it's been very inconsistent. So it's a perfect opportunity. We have a new superintendent, assistant superintendent. We're redoing our policies and looking at that, but we also have to keep in mind the revised school code, and that is one of the responsibilities of the board.
So I would just, I'm sure you, Dr. Suter, you were already planning to make sure you got back to the parents.
Of course, I've taken notes.
Already soon, thank you.
Well, right now, through the state, we are under, as all school districts are, under the zero tolerance policy. Not agreeing or disagreeing with what happened to that gentleman's daughter. But as of August 1st, it's my understanding that we're no longer going to be under that policy unless something more recent at a state level has changed that I may be unaware of. So for the following school year, it is my understanding that administrators within each and every building have to look at each incident as a case-by-case basis and not just a blanket, this is zero tolerance, there's no touching, there's no pushing, there's no defending, there's no, the person who is the defendant is not as found guilty as the person who was the perpetrator. So hopefully with that happening, again, it's my understanding that it still is as of August 1st that we won't have, I'm sorry, in my opinion, silly incidences to happen like that.
Well, you're right. The law takes effect for next fall. I shared a legal updates with all administrators, and really what the gentleman spoke to and what the law speaks to is the need to formalize, if you don't have it already, restorative practices program, MTSS. You need pieces of systems in place that look at other ways to support kids rather than just the discipline code of conduct. So. What sorts of other things were done at the building level. There's, of course, state mandated consequences if there's a weapon or drugs involved. But even those now, you have to check off a list of factors that the school administrator took into consideration and document that these factors were checked off and these were the decisions that were made. So it's a more formalized process, but you're right.
More individual.
It forces the discussion around all the layers of the incident, not just if this, then this, because of course the goal is to keep kids in front of teachers as much as possible. So you're right, that will be coming for the fall, and part of the review is underway. Thank you.
So just to add to that, Mr. Williams, we have 5 days that our team has gone to RESA as part of a collaborative effort for restorative justice purposes. And so we went in waves. And so the first meeting, it was our PBIS executive group from Taylor. And then we had principal representatives that went. And then the final meeting will be with our PBIS executive along with Mr. Williams to discuss all of the findings and everything that has been shared in each one of those sessions. And all of those were held at RESA. And I just got a very serious emergency message that says that I did not sleep enough hours because I put the wrong date. So the open house is Thursday, not Wednesday, for the coaching. Please forgive me, that would be a catastrophe. So that blew up loud and clear. Forgive my error, and the coaching meeting is on Thursday. There's too many meetings in my head. I'm very, very sorry.
So in all of that discussion, which committee of the board, where will this be discussed? Policy, curriculum, the board's role in hearing, being involved in expulsions and suspensions like other districts are. And we had talked about that. That's a big responsibility and a big job, but even just getting an update on what those are and a list every week, and making sure that people are consistent in following the rules from child to child, we need to have some more discussion on that.
That would be a policy committee discussion. It's perfect timing as the board is working through the Neola piece. You know, I will say this is the only district I've worked in thus far where the board doesn't, as a board, process expulsion hearings. Out-of-school suspension hearings are processed at the building principal level in all districts that I'm aware of. You know, those are things up to 10 days because there's simply far too many of them for the board to interact on those. As an example, last year, if we're looking at numbers, we had 64 student long-term suspensions or expulsions. So that would be a removal of a student for more than 10 days. So those are things that the hearing committee currently processes in the district. I know that was one of the questions I asked when I arrived because it was a model I wasn't used to. I did fact check that with John Cava. It is a lawful model. Boards can delegate that duty to a subcommittee or a hearing panel, which has been the practice in this district evidently for some time. But boards also do that as well. And the question would become special meetings because you can't typically wait if there's a student discipline incident and you have to have that hearing within the 10-day suspension. You'd be scheduling lots of special meetings to get those in. It's certainly doable, and it's at the pleasure of the board if that's the way, as we get to that portion of the policy, that the board would like to move. This year, as an example, we have been working, I know Mary Ann and I have been working diligently with principals to really reduce that number. It was one of the things we talked about in the summer when we both showed up, concerned about how many removals there were for longer than 10 days. And so just as a point of comparison, last year, again, for the full year, 64 students out for the long-term or the expulsion, long-term suspension expulsion. Right now we're at 26. So, you know, our target was to cut that down by half, and we're a little bit ahead of that target, and knock on wood, we'll finish strong in that area. So just points of reference as the board thinks about this for their policy work.
Well, and I just want to state to you then, maybe we can see what other districts are doing, because my understanding is they have those hearings right at a regular board meeting. So
You go into closed session,
some
right?
districts, well, sometimes parents want closed session and sometimes they
Totally
don't. So
disrespectful.
if they are handled at a regular board meeting, so it doesn't necessarily have to involve special meetings.
Oh, no. But only if the calendar doesn't line up, because we don't have a meeting every Monday.
Take it outside.